Minister, your colleagues in government had promised a full independent assessment of the potential to underground the North-South interconnector. Rather than deliver that, you instead commissioned a review of previous reviews, something that nobody had ever asked for. Can I ask you if you have received the findings of that review and whether you plan to publish them? And importantly, will you now ensure that we can actually move towards the delivery of the North-South interconnector by delivering what communities have sought, which is a full assessment of the undergrounding of the project?
Thank you. The new North-South interconnector, which will allow for the flow of 900 megawatts of electricity between Ireland and Northern Ireland, will be critical for improving the operation of the All-Ireland integrated single electricity market. It would also help to facilitate the achievement of the goal of generating up to 80% of our electricity from renewable sources by 2030. A resilient and well-connected energy infrastructure is vital for Ireland's economic well-being and the ability to respond to the future needs of energy consumers. The option of undergrounding the North-South interconnector has been comprehensively assessed on several occasions. Most recently, the key findings from the International Expert Commission's report of October 2018 was that an overhead line remains the most appropriate option for this critical electricity infrastructure. Notwithstanding this, it was deemed appropriate to carry out a further short review to assess if the overall finding from the 2018 report remained valid. Having requested tenders from a number of grid experts across Europe, 2 international experts were selected to carry out the study. Work is continuing on the report, which has taken longer than expected, but I understand it is to be finalised shortly. Following the receipt of the report, it will be considered with publication to follow in due course. I expect it to receive it within a short few weeks, to share it with government colleagues, and then to publish it and to have, I presume, a debate in this House on the contents.
Minister, I was in the Ploughing Championships today, and your name came up quite an amount. And I'm not one for personalised attacks, but you have become the figurehead for the perception that this government doesn't listen to communities. And the North-South interconnector is actually a really good example of that, because communities have been very clear, as have we in the opposition, that we understand the rationale for a North-South interconnector and we want to see it delivered. But we've also pointed out to you and to your predecessors on several occasions that the principle of public acceptance and public engagement hasn't been met in respect of this project. Now, we can proceed with this farcical situation where you're refusing to even engage with the local communities, where you've established a review to carry out a review of reviews, where the elephant in the room is that the undergrounding of this project has been deemed by the exact report that you are after citing to be a credible option. What is the resistance to actually pursuing that in a way that will actually deliver this project probably in a more timely and efficient way than the current trajectory?
We listen acutely to communities. That's what all politicians do. You listen. And I listen to a country where those high energy prices are really crippling people, as various deputies have said earlier. One of the benefits of a North-South interconnector was save Irish households year in, year out, huge, significant amount of money. Secondly, I hear people saying, why are we so dependent on those distant fossil fuels that hold our country to ransom? And an interconnector would also help us develop and deliver our own power. I hear communities, particularly in other border regions, who haven't had the same economic advantage and development that's occurred in other parts of the countries, and I know that an interconnector would also help facilitate such economic development in the border areas. And I believe it's right and proper for us to try and get that economic development to those areas, not just Dublin or the other cities. And lastly, I hear communities who want an all-Ireland approach in everything we do, who have a belief in national unity. And I see no reason for us to break up our island with disintegration of the electricity market and not integrating our systems. I actually think this is what I hear communities in the border counties want, that united Ireland approach, which is what an interconnector will help bring.
I'm sure your colleague, Minister in the North, will be delighted to hear that an interconnector is some clandestine mechanism to deliver Irish unity. But to be quite clear, yes, absolutely, Sinn Féin want to see an all-Ireland integrated electricity network. That is why we want to pursue this piece of infrastructure in a way that will actually have community support, precisely so that we can deliver this interconnector. You've told me before that you recall your previous time in government where this issue was first mooted. You should also recognise that we are no further on to the delivery of it, almost 20 years after it was first mooted. And my fear is that with your approach, which is simply to advocate what it is you think communities are saying rather than what they are actually saying, which is, yes, let's build this infrastructure, but let's do it in a way that is credible, as determined by a previous report, and in a way that will have public acceptance. I don't know why that concept is so alien to you and this government. The actual idea that we can deliver a key piece of vital infrastructure, but with the support of local communities, because without it we are going to enter into another period of prolonged delays and we won't actually see the end goal of this infrastructure being in place.
I met Minister Dowd the other day and met him again earlier in the summer. Now, I'm trying to remember because it's very hard to know because there isn't an administration up north, but he obviously has a keen interest in it, even if there isn't the structures where government up north can make a decision on this. But we do need a decision. It is, as you say, I started first hearing about this 20 years ago, where it was described as the most important and urgent project to deliver an effective all-island energy system. Now, in that intervening years, all the energy experts that I've heard have said, particularly if you want to get industrial development to the border counties, that you do have to have it as part of a synchronised AC system. That you could do possibly, you could run a line up the Irish Sea from Belfast to Dublin. But what you would have then is a country, an island, where the economic development is just in Dublin and Belfast.
That's what we have under your government.
And that's what we need to change. That's what we need to get away from.
You're missing the vital component of
community. And you do have responsibility in government
acceptance.
to think of that long-term development of the island.
But you haven't ever answered my questions in relation to community acceptance. Why is that?
That is an issue. I fully accept that's an issue.
So how are you going to address it?
But I also believe...
Minister, please, we're over time and we're eating into